Christmas cards, and we sort of looked each other up whenever we were round, you know, in the same areas and things. And he never forgot people.
And I think that's a sign of a great guy, and I think
it is to me.
He's a great guy. Whether you like him as a singer or not, it doesn't really matter. I've seen him.
He made a fantastic career. He's had.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's been around.
And for people to remember people who were redcoats with him, ain't bad. I mean, it's all right if I remember the people who were redcoats with me, but he's not allowed to.
No, I mean, the redcoats thing, I mean, he's brought a lot on, because old Des was a redcoat, Des O'Connor.
He was,
and quite a few other comics. I think Tarby was, and I think...
Yeah, Charlie Drake
the great Charlie Drake. Oh,
yeah, that's right, and so many of them were. You know, Bradley Walsh was a redcoat.
Oh, yeah, and I think Shane Ritchie as well, or Blue Coat, or one of the three as well.
That's it. It's quite amazing, isn't it? It was an easy way of easing yourself into show business.
I must admit, I considered it when I was younger myself, and I didn't do it, but maybe I wish I did, but never mind, we won't worry about that.
But the thing was, you know, all the people I was at school with, and that, when I started to do any good in the business, they all said, you were dead lucky. I said, no, I wasn't lucky. I said, I worked blooming hard to get there. I mean, when I've had to Butlins, they said, how much do you get there then? I said, well, £5 a week, and you bought bed and board, and they said, what, £5 a week? That'll do you no good at all. And then people turned around and said, oh, you were lucky.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long old day as well, wasn't it? From like 6 o'clock in the morning till about sort of 11 o'clock at night. It was a long old day.
It was, but it always made me laugh. I can't think who it was said it's amazing. They were talking about somebody in the business. It's amazing that, you know, the more success he has, you know, the less hard he worked for it, which is such a load of cobs, isn't it?
I know.
I mean, everybody I know most people I know in show business have worked blooming hard to get where they are.
I agree, and they continue to work hard. I mean, I think people miss out. They come to a show and they turn up and they think, oh, these guys, and they turn up 5 minutes before the show and leave 5 minutes after the show. But most of them are there all afternoon practicing or rehearsing, sound checking, and doing bits and bobs before the show, and then. You know, and then after the show, they often do meet and greets, and by the time they get home, it's late at night, and it's not anybody who says it's an easy life. I know through people who I know in the business, it's not an easy life. And if you go into show business and want to make some money and want an easy life, you're in the wrong business. You
blooming are, because point one is the thing that you always say if any kids ever ask you what's what about show business. I say you must love it. Do you love it? Because if you don't, give up.
Yeah.
I mean, so many kids now say that is their ambition. I want to be famous.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so many people do become famous now, Terry, for doing nothing.
I know, but they don't last, though, Roy. I mean,
that's
how many years have you been in show business now?
56.
56 years. Some of them are lucky to last 56 weeks.
Exactly. That's true enough. But, I mean, he would only do it, and he would only work for terrible wages and things like that, if you loved doing it. And I love doing it, I really do, you know, and it gives me a huge kick to be able to take my show out, my one-man show, which has been on the road for about 8-9 weeks now, you know.
Yeah.
And we'll be hanging around until the end of May, into June.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't work as hard as I used to, in the fact that I do the one-nighters instead of weeks, which I used to do at places.
But it's still as hard.
Probably the most is 3 one-nighters in a week.
Yeah.
That's the most.
But all that travelling as well.
Donny does even more than that, and he's about 103, Donny.
Yeah.
You know, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Because I said, Ken, why do you stay on for hours and hours and you won't come off? I said, I can't wait to get home. He said, I love it on there.
Do you know what? Ken is one of the only comedians I have yet to see live.
Oh, well, you've got to.
But I haven't got to spare 3 weeks.
Oh, that was the thing. Well, he became a water act, you know, which is our sort of social club of all the comics and people in our business. And he became one, you see, Ken. And he got there, and I said, he was waiting, I think, for about 30 years he'd passed the ballot and everything, but he never turned up. He was always busy. So he could never be, initiated. And eventually he did. And I said, how marvellous. I said, he's come straight here. I said, from last week when he was at Bournemouth. He only came off just 10 minutes ago.
He has a reputation for going, the show starts about 7 o'clock and finishes about sort of midnight, doesn't it?
Well, that's what I mean. But the thing is that I've often said to Ken, because he's a dear buddy,
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And I've often said to him, why can you go on and on? And there's no answer if someone says, because I love being on there. There's no answer to that.
No, it's interesting. I do a lot of work with musicians, and some of them have been playing since 1962, the same year I was born. People like the Searchers and all that.
Yeah.
And they just love performing. They don't need the money, and
that's right.
I don't think it's the money doesn't drive them, because they over the years they've made enough money to be very comfortable and not to worry about it. And but they just love to perform. And it's almost like an adrenaline kick. I do, as I say, I do a little bit of performing, and I do a little bit of comparing, and it's so nice. I go on stage, warm up the crowd before the main act comes on, and it's great. I enjoy it.
Well, there you are, you see.
And it's one of those things. Something I'd like to do a bit more. So if anybody got any jobs, we're all right. Now, let's go back. That's enough of me. Let's talk a bit more about your life.
If you don't love the game, don't go into it.
Because
you're going to have your heart broken. It goes wrong sometimes, but unless you love it, you don't come back and have another bash.
No.
But if you love doing it, you come back and have another go.
Yeah. But you obviously, we just spoke about Butlins. In 1959, you joined a show called Workers' Playtime.
Yes, indeed, that was a radio show.
Yeah, radio show.
It was a great show because it was done live on radio from factory canteens all over the country.
That's right.
And we used to go on and do the show live at lunchtime when they'd just finished their lunches in these factories, and they were a great audience. They really were. It was my first thing in radio.
Yeah.
And the answer to it was how I got the first one was through Ken Dodd.
Really? So
and Ken was doing a lot of radio at that time, and I was in concert party at Babacombe, just up the road, a little show. And his producer came down to see Ken to talk about the next series. And he said, I've seen your act a million times, Ken. Are there any other shows around? He said, well, there's one at Babacombe, just up the hill. He said, Babacombe. He said, yeah. He said, and there's a comic in it. I've never seen him. He said, but people tell me he's very good. And he came up to see our show, and that's how I got my first radio.
And then, of course, you love radio, and since 1975, you've been doing a little show on Radio 2 called The News Headlines.
That's right.
51 series, is it? 51 series?
It was that. We did 26 years altogether.
Unbelievable.
On it. Wasn't that fantastic?
It was, and I'll tell you what, I used to love it. And to me, it's the prequel to, Have I Got News for You?
Yeah, that's right.
Basically, they've stolen your thunder.
Well, I reckon so. But we came off after 26 years. But it's quite interesting when I do the show all about musical, I compare the news headlines with some of the comics in those early days who did exactly the same sort of material that we did. One-liners about stuff in the news, topical gags, parodies, all that sort of thing. And so nothing really changes.
No, I think somebody said there's about 6 jokes and they're all versions of a theme.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I was told. But, I mean, from the radio, you've done TV, and your first TV was with a guy I know, a guy called Ned Sherrin.
Yes! Well, that was not so much a programme, more a way of life, which was the show that followed. That was the week that was. That was my big break.
And I mean,
really was.
I mean, you've worked with some of the great and good of sort of comedy and show business. I mean, the great Arthur Askey. I know you've worked with him a few times.
He was a lovely man.
Yeah. And
it does sound as though we all love everybody, but you only talk nicely about the people who you really liked.
I know he was a very funny man.
The other side of things.
I always remember his Buzzy Bee sketch.
Yes, that's right.
I always remember that.
Yeah.
And of course, he was also one of the great panto dames.
He certainly was. He was a great ad-libber too,
Was he a bit naughty, was he?
Well, not really. Oh, yeah.
Well, naughty as in sort of ad-libbing to put you off. Yeah.
But God, he was funny.
Yeah. Because I mean,
very funny man. Good fun to be with, and gave me a job when I was absolutely at my lowest ebb. He got me a marvellous job, and I'd had a year where nothing had gone right for me. I started this year. This is why you've got to love the business. And I started that year. I had the first series I ever had on ITV. I was in a brand new play by the fellow who wrote not the Sting. I can't think of the title of the show. Angelica, and it was in this West End play with Rita Tushingham and Dandy Nichols, and I thought, we're on a winner there, and I was doing my first radio show. Well, within 3 months, the whole thing had hit the ground. The ITV series was a disaster. Nobody listened to the radio show, and the play in the West End ran for 6 nights.
Oh, dear.
So it was dreadful. That was the start of the year, and I could not get arrested. I really couldn't. My agent said, I can't even get you a Sunday concert, Roy. He said, they're all saying you're box office poison and all this stuff, you see. Yeah. So eventually I told my tale of woe to Arthur's daughter, who was Anthea Askey, who I knew very well. And Anthea told her dad that I was having a hard time and everything. I'd never met Arthur. Never, ever met him. And he was, and suddenly I got this pantomime in Wimbledon, which was just up the road from where I lived in Croydon at the time. So I said, how did it happen? And the fellow who was putting the show on said, well, he said it was Arthur. We offered Arthur the panto at Wimbledon. Don't forget, I'd never met this bloke. And he said, yes, I'd love to do it. He said, Arthur, but I must have Roy Hudd with me because we're marvellous together in pantomime.
What a legend. And that's
about that for a nice band? And all you hear, God, you must know it, Terry, all you hear are bad things about these people.
No, I tell you what, I find show business people often the most friendly people in the world. I mean, I've been doing this show for about 4 years. I think I've done 200 and something shows. And,
Lord.
And without missing a week, actually, I've done very well. And, I mean, I have people on from different walks of life, whether it be authors, musicians, comedians, and they're all, most of them, there are a couple of exceptions, I'm not going to name names, I rather like working here, and I rather like some of the people I deal with.
This is Seclo Sounds, and you can listen to us by clicking Listen Live on our homepage at seclosounds.org for a choice of players. Via TuneIn Radio at www.tunein.com, search for Seclo Sounds and listen online or download the TuneIn app. You can download the Seclo Sounds iPhone app from the iTunes App Store, and you can listen to us on demand at our replay page.
I mean, you share the same sort of love of panto that I do. I was 6 years of age, and my gran took me. We used to go every year to the London Palladium,
and I think Cliff.
And I think Cliff was on one year, and then I used to go to the Golders Green Empire, and I think I remember seeing Freddie Garrity and the Dreamers.
Yeah, could be.
And, they used to come straight out of the charts. And I love my panto. I'm fortunate enough I get to see 4, maybe 5 a year.
Good for you.
And do you know what? I love every minute of it.
Yeah, it's good fun. If it's done properly.
I know, there are some good. I've seen the good, the bad, and the downright ugly over the last sort of 10 years.
I try and cover all those parts of it as one person.
And do you know what I find amusing about panto? They seem to think that the more money they throw at it, the better it will be.
And it's not true. You're right. It makes me so angry that now. Last year I did a panto at Wilton's Music Hall in the East End of London, and that was built in the 1820s, and it had a bit of a checkered career as a music hall in those early days, and then it closed, and was closed for, God knows, about 70 years, and then a few years back, in fact about 40 years back, I got involved with it only to support it and try and get it open again. Because it's the oldest music hall in Europe. And eventually people donated money. The lottery people were terrific with us. And 11 years ago, it reopened again. And that was just magic. It's the great magic venue in London now, right near the Tower of London. And everybody wants to work there. And they asked me if I'd do panto there last year, which I did. And it never had a pantomime in the whole history of it.
Wow.
And it went there, and we packed it out for 6 weeks.
Yep.
Solid.
I think it's great. Panto really works well. Have you any plans now? Go on, you can give me this one. Are you doing Panto this Christmas?
I certainly am. They've asked us back again.
You're going back there, are you?
Yeah, because
do you know what?
It was the first time I'd ever played Dame was last year. You know, so this year they said, what do you want to do? And I wanted to follow it up with, we did Dick Whittington, of course, because it's right in the East End, and it was a good